You woke up this morning and ate breakfast. Around noon, you probably grabbed lunch. And tonight, you will sit down for dinner.
You did not question it, you never have. It just feels like the natural order of things. But here is what almost no one talks about. Nobody decided this for you based on biology. No doctor prescribed it. No ancient wisdom handed it down. 3 meals a day is not a law of nature. It is a story. And it is one of the most fascinating stories in all of human history. Let us go back, way back. Around 23,000 years ago, on the shores of what is now the Sea of Galilee in Israel,
there was a place called Ohalo II. Archaeologists found the remains of small brush-walled dwellings there, each one built around a hearth. Scattered near those hearths was evidence of over 140 types of seeds and nuts. There were bones too, from birds, fish, and small mammals. The people who lived here were hunter-gatherers. They ate whenever food was available. Not 3 times a day, not twice, just whenever. There were no meal times because there was no guaranteed food supply. Some days they feasted, some days they went hungry.
The very concept of a structured daily eating schedule would have meant nothing to them. Eating was not a routine, it was a result.
The result of a successful hunt, or a lucky morning of foraging. Then something happened that changed everything. Around 10,000 BCE, agriculture took hold in the Fertile Crescent, across parts of modern-day Iraq, Iran, and Turkey. For the first time, people had a reliable food supply. They did not need to chase food anymore. Food stayed put, so people stayed put too.
Permanent settlements formed. Cooking grew more complex. Meals became more communal. But even then, 3 structured meals a day did not exist.
Free light. What people ate, and when, still depended entirely on culture, and daylight.
Egyptians typically ate 2 meals, a light morning meal of bread and beer, and a heavier evening meal with vegetables, lentils, and whatever protein was available. 2 meals, not 3. The ancient Greeks were a little closer to what we would recognize today. They had a small morning meal called akratisma, which was basically bread dipped in wine. Then came ariston, a midday meal, and finally depnon, a more substantial evening gathering. But not everyone ate all 3. These were not fixed, time-locked events. The Romans are perhaps the most surprising case of all. The Roman Empire was one of the most organized civilizations the world had ever seen. You might expect them to have had a strict meal schedule. They did not. The Romans were deeply suspicious of eating more than once a day. Historian Caroline Yeldham explains that they were obsessed with digestion and believed that eating multiple meals was simply a form of gluttony. Their primary meal was called cena, eaten around midday. A small morning snack called iantaculum existed, but it was barely treated as a real meal. Then came the moment when European settlers arrived in the Americas. They were genuinely shocked by how Native Americans ate. According to historian Abigail Carroll, author of 3 Squares, The Invention of the American Meal, Native Americans fasted when necessary, adjusted their food intake with the seasons, and followed no fixed daily schedule.
The Europeans called this uncivilized. That bias would eventually help spread 3 meals. The answer takes us to 16th century Europe, a world that was beginning to organize itself around the clock. Since at least the 1500s, the Navy served sailors 3 set meals built around the shipboard routine. A simple breakfast of ship's biscuits and salted meat, a midday lunch as the main meal, and a lighter dinner in the evening. The reasoning was entirely practical. Sailors needed fuel at predictable intervals.
Physical naval work was relentless, and the schedule had to match it. But what truly locked 3 meals into the lives of ordinary people was the Industrial Revolution. Starting around 1760 in Britain and spreading across Europe and North America over the following century, for the first time, large numbers of people were not working in fields with loose seasonal rhythms. They were working in factories with rigid, standardized hours. You clocked in and out at a fixed time. You had 1 break in the middle of the day. Breakfast before work, lunch at midday, dinner after the shift. It mapped perfectly onto the new industrial schedule. 3 meals a day was not a discovery. It was a solution. An organizational answer to the demands of factory life. As cities grew and people moved away from farms, the morning meal became increasingly important. The word breakfast literally means to break the fast of the night before. In medieval Christian Europe, eating before morning mass was often discouraged. So breakfast as a regular full meal was slow to catch on. But skipping a morning meal while working a 10 or 12-hour industrial, it was a health hazard. The morning meal became essential. Dinner shifted too. Before industrialization, the main meal was eaten at midday, when natural light was at its strongest. But as artificial lighting improved and factories kept workers busy well into the afternoon, the main meal migrated to the evening.
By the mid-1800s, dinner after work had become the daily anchor for most people in Europe and the United States.
Now here is the most important question of all. Does your biology actually want you to eat 3 times a day? The answer might surprise you. Inside every human being is a circadian rhythm, your body's internal 24-hour clock. Research published in Current Biology shows
Insulin sensitivity, metabolism, and even the behavior of fat cells at a cellular level.
Insulin sensitivity is near its peak, meaning carbohydrates and sugars are more likely to be converted into usable energy instead of stored fat. Eat that exact same meal late at night, and the outcome changes dramatically. Blood sugar rises higher, sleep quality worsens, fat storage increases. Your hunger hormones, ghrelin and leptin, follow this rhythm too. In fact, your body begins preparing for meals before you even take the first bite. Scientists call this physiological food anticipation. Your biology is not passive. It learns your habits, and that reveals something important. What matters most is not necessarily the number of meals you eat, but when you eat them. 2 meals, 3 meals, or even 4 can all work reasonably well, as long as most food is consumed during daylight hours, when the body is metabolically prepared for it. But biology is only part of the story. For more than 23,000 years, humans have gathered around food not just to survive, but to connect.
Long before factories, office schedules, or serial advertisements existed, shared meals were how trust.
Research in social psychology consistently finds that people who eat regularly with others report greater happiness, stronger social bonds, and a deeper sense of belonging.
3 meals a day, whatever its historical origins, gives us 3 recurring opportunities to do something profoundly human. So why do we eat 3 meals a day? Because sailors needed schedules. Because factory workers needed predictable breaks. Because medieval Christians could not eat before Mass. Because industrial society reorganized life around the clock. Because cereal companies turned breakfast into a business opportunity. And because underneath all that history, human biology already operated on rhythms that happened to align with it.
3 meals a day is not a biological law, but it is not a meaningless invention either. It is the result of centuries gradually shaping one another over time. Tonight, you will probably sit down for dinner like billions of people before you, and now you will know why.